There's a moment where a guy just comes into his own. He hits another level. We saw that with Moicano tonight. With his technical skill, his attitude, the way he feels about things. The man's on another level. And that's a Moicano, ladies and gentlemen.
That is the greatest post-fight interview.
My dream was always to be a professional athlete, and that was a long road, many years of training and dedication. And was not an easy road. It was very hard for me, especially because my family didn't believe in me. Sometimes even me didn't believe in myself, didn't believe in my abilities and my skills to become a UFC fighter. And that was a long road, but I did it. Today, I'm a professional athlete. I live by the code of being a UFC fighter. And if I'm honest with you, I would do it everything again, but this time better, because I learned so much on this journey, on this road. I learned so much about myself, about what you have to do to become a successful fighter, how you should train, how you should eat, how you should sleep and recover, and how you should treat fighting as a business. So again, I will do everything again, but this time better. And I'm gonna to show you how to do by yourself and how to become the best version of yourself if you want to be a UFC or MMA fighter. In my opinion, you have to have one thing for sure, and it's the ability to focus 100% in what you want. Doesn't matter the opinions, doesn't matter if people believe or don't believe you. You have to have that grit. You know, you have to be very focused on what you want to do, and doesn't matter the consequences, you know, because sometimes people spend their whole lives trying to be a fighter and they cannot making a living of that, but they still want to fight, they still want to compete. And for me, that's the first reason that somebody want to be a UFC fighter. And you have to question yourself about that. Do you want to do that for the rest of my life? And I remember even on my first MMA fight, I was asking myself that, do you want to be a UFC fighter? Do you want to be an MMA fighter for the rest of your life, even if the consequences are not the way you want? And I answer myself, yes. Even if I'm poor, even if I don't have family, if nobody support me, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I think you have to have that question and you have to answer that question. Do you want to be a fighter? That's going to take a lot of you, you know, a lot of nights that people are in party, you are training or resting to training the another day. You're gonna change completely your lifestyle around the fighting. And if you are serious about that, you have to put that in your mind. So the first thing, fight always come first. The second most important thing, and sometimes people don't realize how important that is to find the right gym. Usually people want to fight and they just sign to the near gym next to them. But believe me, this is not a good thing to do. First of all, if you want to be a UFC fighter, MMA fighter, you have to search the biggest gym near you. Just look on the internet what gyms are close to you and see how respectable and how good are his coaches. And how you know that? By his students. If you want to become a UFC fighter, you have to train by coaches that training UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, PFL fighters, professional fighters. So that's very important. Even if you are just beginning on this journey, you are white belt, you don't know nothing about MMA, but you want to be, you don't want to just do the practice, you know, it's not just a hobby, you want to be a fighter, you have to find a good gym, because the good gym, you're gonna have good coaches and good training partners, and they can teach you, because believe me, these coaches, they are training fighters and people for years. If you can get to the top, they know. If you cannot get to the top, and believe me, one of my biggest supporters was my first coaches. Even when my family was in doubt, even when myself was doubting that, I remember my first coaches saying, man, you're gonna be great. You know, you have the potential to be a UFC fighter, you have the potential to be a champion. Keep training, keep doing what you're doing. So that's very, very important. Know good people for the industry, for the business. And that being said, a lot of people, they think differently, you know? They think you have to go to a gym for your whole life, but it's not like that. Believe me or not, most of the fighters at one point, they're gonna have to change gyms. That happened to me because I was born in Brazil, and even though Brasília is the capital of Brazil, it's not a big city like São Paulo and Rio, and we don't have many gyms. I was fortunate enough to start training in a very good gym, but a small gym. What that means? That means that there were fighters and there were some people in UFC and other shows, so they have tradition in mixed martial arts and they have tradition in jiu-jitsu and stuff, so it was a very good gym. But remember, I start my career over there, but at one point I need to change gyms, and that's why I moved to the USA, to Florida, and right now I'm training in one of the biggest gyms in the world, American Top Team, and the difference is brutal. You know, I got to the UFC in my first gym, but I learned so much when I got in ATT, because in Brazil, even though they are fighters, they had another job. People that I was training, let's say they work as security or they work in a bank or whatever. They have jobs and they show up to the practice, but it's not the same thing. When you got in a gym that full of fighters, they are professional and they don't have to work to training, is a completely another level. So remember that you can start in a small gym, but at one point you have to upgrade your gym, and that's happened to everybody, you name it. Back in the day, people used to think that you have to stick to your gym forever, but now this is business, my brother. And as a businessman, I have to tell you, you have to do what is best for your business. You have to take care of your body and you have to take care of your training, and you have to be diligent about that. After you got to a point that you are the best on your gym, you have to find another place. And let's move on to the next point. A lot of people ask me about what's the best base for MMA. I am a jiu-jitsu guy, so I start to train in jiu-jitsu at 11, 12. Eventually, when I was 18, I started training boxing and kickboxing, and I did some fights and tournaments in kickboxing to get a feel how is to fight in the ring. And when I was 21, I fight my first professional MMA fight. So what I would do different and what I would recommend you, first of all, if you are in the United States, you have to start with the wrestling. Nowadays, the wrestling is so important. I'm not talking only about like college wrestling and go to a high school and try to be a wrestler. You have to get these wrestlers and mix it up with grappling, with no-gi, you know, with BJJ, with ADCC rules, and you have to get a grasp on how to take down and how to control guys. That will be very important for your career. And I think the boxing is so important for the MMA because, of course, the kick is very important, but the basic, you know, is what works. So you have to be able to throw a good jab, a good cross, a good hook, a good uppercut, to be able to step backwards, step forward, to shift, and boxing give that ability to you. So if I have to choose what martial arts learn first, wrestling and boxing. Back in the day, jiu-jitsu was so important for MMA because nobody knew jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was very new, and you could see on the first days of UFC, you see like Royce Gracie and jiu-jitsu guys just taking over the scene because nobody knew jiu-jitsu. But nowadays it's very hard to get a submission from your back, you know. So to be able to use submissions in a good way, you're going to have to shoot for takedowns, take the guy down, do some ground and pound, and then submit them. So boxing and wrestling is the way to go if you are new to the MMA. But some people around the world cannot take advantage of that because USA, Russia, they are very famous for the wrestling. Even in Europe or even in Cuba, some places people are very good. We see people like Yoel Romero, Chris Weidman, Colby Covington, Khabib. But some places like Brazil, we don't have a strong background in wrestling. what you can do some jiu-jitsu, do some judo, do some luta livre, but never try to learn only jiu-jitsu playing from your back. That's going to be very bad for you. If you want to be a successful professional fighter, you have to be able to shoot for takedowns and to defend punches. And how you do that? Boxing. So if you are a Brazilian, work on your boxing a lot, try to do some judo, try to work your takedown defense in the MMA classes. You have to do what you have to do to become a UFC fighter. So, you make up your mind, you want to be a UFC fighter, you found a good gym, you found a good coaches that are gonna take care of you, and you start to train wrestling and boxing in the beginning. But let me tell you something, are you sure you want to be a fighter? In a fighter lifestyle, you don't have vacation, you know? You don't have holidays, that's very funny. Some days, some friends or family, they call me, hey, today is the Labor Day, we don't have to work, let's do something, let's do a barbecue. No, if you are a fighter, doesn't matter if you train in camp or not, you have to train every day. Because remember, you don't have bosses, you don't have people calling you and say, hey, you have to show up to the work. No, you are your own boss. And that's good because you can do what you want. But guess what? If you don't work, if you don't show up in the gym every day, you're gonna get beat in the ring. If you have a fight or if you don't have a fight, doesn't matter. You have to show up to the gym every day, at least 2 times. So I'm going to show you my schedule. So on Monday, I show up at the gym in the morning and we do a practice of wrestling, a lot of wrestling, a lot of grappling to start the week. And after that, we do a training, pads or boxing or kickboxing, whatever you want at the afternoon. Sparrings at Tuesday and Thursday. Every morning we do sparrings, and at night we do strength and conditioning, we work on pad, we work on jiu-jitsu. So the schedule really depends. Myself, for example, I am a jiu-jitsu guy, so I have to work a lot on my wrestling. Since I got here in ATT, the thing that I work most on is my wrestling, cage control, takedown defense, the things that I was not able to learn in Brazil. So that's the way I build my schedule. So you're going to have and you're going to start to build your weekend, what you want to do, how it's going to be your style. So let's say you love boxing, you love kickboxing, you want to be a striker in MMA. So you're going to focus on find the gym that have good strikers, and you're going to work on pads, you're going to run, you're going to hit the bag, you're doing the pad work. But remember, this is MMA, so you have to work a little bit on wrestling. Depending on the fight or the fighter, you have to change your schedule a little bit. So that's a very important aspect of the game, how you do your training. But no matter what, one thing I can tell you, you're not gonna have vacations, you know. Maybe after the fight for a week or 2, but if you take more than that, the time is gonna take a toll on you. So you have always to be ready, especially in MMA, because the opportunity can show up in a week and 2 weeks. My first fight in the UFC, I got my opportunity in 1 week. A fighter got hurt and they called me, hey Moicano, you ready to make the weight next week? I'm gonna say, hell yeah, I'm waiting for the opportunity. I was training for years for that call, and when they call me, I was ready. So if you want to be successful, if you want to be a fighter, you have to be ready all the time. And even today, I am in UFC, I am a ranked lightweight fighter, but I still training every day. If they call me and offer me a fight, I will be ready. That being said, I want to tell you, 80% of the work is done on the gym, but the other 20% is about recovering and what you eat. Like I said before, if you want to be a UFC fighter, you have to find a way of managing your weight. That's very important, because remember, you always want to be as competitive as possible, and for that you're going to have to lose your weight. Fighters that fight at 155, sometimes they weigh 190, like Islam Makhachev, like Khabib, sometimes like Moicano, you know. If fighters fight in 185, sometimes they are 205. So they have to manage the weight, and that's very hard. And how you do that? Every day I wake up and I check my weight, and based on that, I will have different breakfasts. So let's say I'm too heavy on the day and I'm not supposed to be on that weight. I will just have protein, you know, a little bit of fat like avocado, maybe some honey, maybe some oatmeal. So you have to have a nutritionist to take care of that, because you cannot do that by yourself. But try to find a good nutritionist that can help you to achieve your goals and to achieve your weight class, okay? And one thing that my nutritionist always advised me is to consume protein, because when you are training, when you are lifting weights, when you are running, sprinting, doing everything that you need to get ready for a fight, you lose a lot of amino acids, you lose a lot of stuff. So I always recommend you to have at least protein and creatine. Creatine is very important. People think creatine is only to gain muscles and to gain mass, but creatine is one of the best supplements for the recovery of your body. So creatine is very important, but it's very important you drink a lot of water too, because creatine can be tough on your body, so you have to drink a lot of water. And if you are an MMA fighter, you have to be able to drink a lot of water to cut weight and to keep yourself clean. Now I have a partner, Sun Nutrition. They get everything that I need for training. Let's say this whey protein. So we have this whey protein, Titanium whey. This is my favorite. I love that. We have some creatine. I always have creatine to help me recover, to build up strength and sometimes mass. And I like to use vitamins too, like calcium, magnesium, zinc. This is very important for your health. You have to take care of this if you want to be a professional fighter. And another thing that I like, they are not paying me for that. Thank you so much, Sun Nutrition, for the support. But this is one of the best things that I ever have. Endurox. This is a recover, you know. The only problem, this has a lot of sugar, but you need sugar, you know, after the training. A lot of people think you cannot drink sugar, but supplements, they are very good for recovery. So a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of calories that can make you recover for your next train. Remember, as a fighter, you want to train as much as possible. And how you do that? Recovering. So you're training, you try to eat, recover, sleep, and you're training again. That's the life of a fighter. So that being said, Endurox, a lot of cycling athletes, a lot of endurance athletes, they like that supplement, and I just recommend you. That's very, very good. So now you decide yourself you want to be a fighter, you found a good gym, you find good training partners, you have been putting the work for at least 1 year, 1.5 years, you have been consistent with the training, with your diet, you're not partying, you're not going out every day, drinking and doing stupid you getting your together and going to the gym every day and put on a work, and you want to fight. And now that's the time to make a fight. Remember, in Brazil, back in the day when I started in 2011, long time ago, we didn't have amateur fights. And that's very important. That's a thing that I can tell you is one of the most important things for fighters, is start with the amateur career. Some states like Florida, you have to have at least 5 amateur fights before go pro. And myself, I was not like that. They throw me to the lions. So my first fight in Brazil was against a guy with 10 fights in the biggest promotion in Brazil, the jungle fight. That's a very risky step, you know, because remember, you don't have any fights. Like I said before, I had some couple amateur fights of kickboxing, boxing, and jiu-jitsu, so that got me ready to be able to fight for the jungle fight. But most of people in Brazil, they don't even have that. They throw them to the professionals, and believe me, in MMA, a defeat can be very bad for you mentally, especially on your debut. So make sure you do amateur career, because nobody cares. Amateur career is to experiment. Go over there, try your best. If you didn't win, you just show up to the gym, do the same process and fight again, and fight as much as possible as amateur. You know, if you are young, You know, that's a thing that I would do different. If I was 18 again, 17, 19, I would fight as many as amateur fight possible to get ready for the big show, to get ready to be a professional. Man, one thing that's very important about being a professional is be ready to lose. You know, almost everybody loses. You have to be able to deal with defeat. And one thing they're gonna prepare you is amateur career. You can make mistakes, you can lose, doesn't matter. You're not getting paid for that. Actually, you're paying for learning. So how you avoid mistakes? Doing mistakes, you know what I mean? You can learn through the others, watching videos, watching fights, and that's very important too. I recommend you to watch fights a lot if you want to be a UFC fighter, but you have to do these mistakes too on the amateur career especially, because after that, after you have 10, 15, 20 amateur fights, you can go pro and you're gonna get used to that. Your first pro fight is going to be easy because you don't have the same feelings. You already felt that. In a lower level, you know, the guys were not professional too, they were just amateur fighters, but make sure you have a good amateur career before you start a professional career. You have been doing this for years now. All that hard work, and now you're going to do your first professional MMA fighter, and that's when the journey really begins. Now you're gonna get paid, but not much. One thing that people don't realize much is the importance of a manager. You have to find a very good manager. When you are amateur, you don't need manager. Your coaches can find the championships and the shows for you to fight. But when you become a professional MMA fighter, now is responsibility of the manager to take care of you, to get you in a big league. And how he do that? Choosing the right fights. Like I said before, I didn't have a manager until I got to the UFC. I have 10 wins, no losses, fighting all the best in Brazil. If you see my record was crazy. When I was debuting, I fought a former jiu-jitsu champion with a lot of fights. My second fight, I fought a guy with more than 40 fights in the biggest show in Brazil. My third fight, I fought a veteran. My fourth fight, I fought a guy very well known in Brazil. And by my fifth fight, I was fighting the best featherweight at the time in Brazil, Iliardi Santos. So that was a very hard fight for me, especially because I didn't have a good manager. I didn't have a manager at all. After 5 fights in Jungle Fight, I did 1 fight on Shoto and did 4 fights in Jungle Fight, and I'm become 8-0, 9-0, I don't remember right now. And then I got called by UFC and I got a manager. What should I do different? If I had to get back, I would hire a very good manager. And how do you find a good manager? Knowing people. You know, if you know other fighters, you ask them about the manager, you ask them if the manager are being good to them, if they are find sponsor, find good fights. On the beginning, don't think about money, think about a good manager that can put you in a good promotion and can get favorite matchups, especially on the first fights. You know, find local guys to find in small shows, and after 5 fights, you try to get in a medium promotion. You know, every and each victory you feel more confidence. You know, every time you go to octagon and you beat somebody, you get more confidence, and you can see that on training. So right now you are beating people up in cages. Get back in training to get better all the time, getting better and better and better, and that's just gonna add to you, you know, so you're gonna feel confidence. But believe me or not, it's not good if your manager only throw you easy fights, you know, because sometimes we see people in UFC getting with like undefeated records, like 10-0, 15-0, and they got into the UFC and they get beat in the first fight. So you should progressively adding more difficulty to the fight. So let's say your first 5 fights were easy, you get a guy that is a little bit better on the 6th fight, and so on and so on and so on. After that, you have to beat somebody on a national level, you know, on a big show like LFL on contender cities, you know, because nowadays you have so much opportunity to get in the UFC. Back in the day, it was not like that. You had to be champion. I was champion of the jungle fight, undefeated, and then I got my opportunity with 1 week in UFC. But back in the day, it was very, very hard opportunity. Nowadays, it's easier. So if you have a good manager, you can get to the big leagues and you don't have to fight everybody before that. And one thing that I said for sure, save yourself for the UFC. So if you are a fighter that likes to brawl, likes the war, likes to fight inside, save that for the UFC. Because then when you had a fight like that in UFC, people are going to remember you. Probably you're gonna get the bonus. Probably you're gonna get a bigger contract because people like you. So don't try to be that guy outside UFC. I'm not saying to be boring and stuff, but if you can finish the fight, finish the fight. Don't take unnecessary punishment on your fights, because when you get to the UFC, you're gonna get a high level competition and then you have to show up. That being said, that's very important. The manager, after you become a pro, is a very, very, very important piece of the puzzle in being a UFC fighter. Find a good manager that can take care of you and can choose the right fights, and always try to level up the competition before a win. You know, you have to be ready, because like I say before, fighting is the most brutal and honest sport. So now you're a professional fighter, you got a good manager that they are taking care of your career, but you cannot trust you only on your manager. Me, myself, I should have done that before. You have to make a brand, to make people want to watch you. And how you do that, I don't know. Everybody's different, you know. Some people are like Nate Diaz, some people are like Conor McGregor, but the most important thing, you have to show off your personality. You have to build a brand on social media. Today is very important to have a good social media. I didn't know that before, but right now that I'm in UFC and I'm living my dream, I just realized UFC is a business like other business. They want to make money, and how they do that? They sell tickets, they sell merch, they sell fights. So you have to bring the eyeballs. How you do that? Or you are a good fighter, or you are good with the mic, or you are both. You know, some fighters are both, like Conor McGregor. You remember when he was changing the way UFC was built, how he did that against Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo was a legend. I myself fought Jose Aldo, and at the time I didn't have the same mindset that I have now, so I didn't capitalize as much as possible on that fight of talking, and even on the fight I respected him too much. But remember what Conor McGregor did to him on the press conference, you know, on the way he was insulting Jose Aldo. Personally, I don't like the way he did, but the fans love it. And today, Conor McGregor is a draw. He was always a draw in UFC. Why? Because of his charisma and his persona. You have to find yourself on the fight game. If you want to be a guy that don't like to talk and don't like to show yourself off, your personality, that's okay too. We have space for you, but you have to be better than everybody, like Khabib, like GSP, that kind of guy that are just focused on the work. For me personally, I recommend you to build your brand around yourself, you know, and that's going to be very important, because in the end of the day, remember, this is business, entertainment business. Another thing that is very important for you to build on this journey is the networking. Like I say again, everybody's different. Some people like to show photos of guns, of fishing, or even training. You have like Paulo Costa, he shared a lot of memes. He's creating a brand of that. Khamzat Chimaev, he's doing that. Gilbert Burns is doing a very good job on his promotion. McGregor is one of the best in promotion. Look what UFC has done for him. He's not only a fighter, he has his own whiskey brand, cloth brand. He made himself millions of dollars through UFC and through boxing. So once you get in the UFC and you have that kind of exposure, you have to take advantage on that to build your brand and to sell and to show them how you live. And I think that's a very positive way to build your social media and to benefit from that and bring some value to your fans. You have been on the industry for years and you met people along this journey, and that's a very important thing, not only on fighting but in life. In UFC, as big as they are, they can help you to build your brand. How? Just look the PR of UFC. They are amazing in doing promos and helping fighters to expose themselves, like with the countdown and the stuff. And we can meet people like Joe Rogan, Dana White, and not only that, all the staff in UFC, and that can help you with another ventures, not only fighting. So once you're trying to get in UFC, you have to do a very good network, you know, to help yourself cement your brand on UFC, and that's very, very, very important. So stay focused on your training, but now you have to start to focus on networking and to connect with another people of the industry that can help you to be in a pay-per-view card that can help you to build your brand. Another thing that's very good about being a fighter is if you become successful, if you are established in UFC, you're going to make a lot of money and other promotions too. So you can choose to live your life the way you want, but be careful, because remember, we don't get paid monthly. So you just get paid when you fight. And that's very important to know, because sometimes, like myself, I had a surgery this year, early in this year, so 1 year without fighting, and if you're not saving money enough, that's going to be very hard. So you have to be diligent about money. You have to learn about investments, what you're going to do after you retire. So make sure you think about that, because this is a very important thing. You can make a lot of money, but you pay a lot of taxes, you have trainings to pay, you have a life to live, you know what I mean? So be careful with the money, be diligent, and make sure you are covered, you know, because if you don't have the money to live and you are a fighter, you're gonna end up fighting fights that you're not prepared, you know, and that's very dangerous, because you could lose to a fighter that is worse than you because you're not prepared enough or you didn't put the work enough. So remember, when you choose to be a fighter, all the responsibility is in your hands. First thing, you have to want that so bad. After that, you have to find a gym, good coaches, take care of your weight, fight amateur fights, fight professional, fight a manager, build your social media, build your network, find sponsors, get into the UFC. After you get in the UFC, you have to have the right fights, you have to follow your dreams and follow your passion. So that's a lot for a video. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I recommend you, no matter what, if it's fighting, if it's being an actor, if it's different but it's your dream, follow your dream, because in the end of the day, you never know what the future have to you. So make sure you follow your dream, because we just have one life. Because my family, they want me to be a lawyer, and I ask myself, do you want to be unhappy for the rest of your life and have the risk to be poor, or you okay to being poor but doing what you love? And I choose to be a fighter. And guess what? Nowadays, Moicano wants money, you know? Am I really happy that I become a UFC fighter? And I have a question for you. After that, after to see how many work you have to put to be a fighter, you still want to be a fighter, or you choose just to watch fights? Tell me in the comments. Tell me if you like the video. And remember, Moicano wants money. Like button, share, and peace out, motherfucker.